Could Hollywood be in danger of losing its access to the cooperation of the United States Department of Defense for usage of military hardware and equipment and personnel? Well, yeah, they could be in danger of that because they continue to allow the government of China to censor their content for display in Chinese theaters, an exhibition in Chinese theaters. If you have not been paying attention recently, in the last several years, actually the last couple of decades, the Chinese box office has become a large component of the foreign box office for movies that are being released. And consequently, it's key for the financial success of a film to be able to have a release and run in China. The issue is that the communist government of China has a real big problem with the lots of different things that progressive countries, like in the United States, like to espouse, like, freedom, for example, or the fact that Taiwan exists, for example. So to get, I mean, they only allow, I think it's something like 12, it's only a handful of films that are foreign films to China. They only allow a handful of them to actually come into Chinese theaters in a given year. And so it's critical that any kind of content that might be offensive or verboten to the communists in China be excised from the film. Now, this isn't really necessarily a problem for just a regular standard movie, like a Disney animated movie. This isn't a problem for Disney, but it is a big problem for movies like Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick, if you recall, is the sequel to Top Gun from 1986. And it's starring Tom Cruise as in a return to one of the roles that made him a superstar. And the fact of the matter is that they are using military hardware that belongs to the United States government. So the thing is that because of the fact that they are using that equipment and they are using that cooperation, there's a real conflict of interest. And the process for the Department of Defense or any kind of film that wants to utilize, Humvees or fighter jets or anything of that nature, if they want to use that and they want the cooperation of the United States military, they submit their script to the Department of Defense, and they have a group in the Department of Defense that reviews the script to make sure it's not anything that's disparaging to the United States military, explicitly or even implicitly. And then if it gets approved, then they say, sure, here's how much it's going to cost. We'll be happy to coordinate with you if you want to use our equipment to train actors or things of that nature. So this has been something that's been going on for the past, you know, 20, 30, 40 years. And whenever you want to get authentic non-CGI equipment, you just go ahead and go through this process. But there's going to be a change here, and or there could be a change here, and that is coming courtesy of Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Uh, Texas Senator Ted Cruz is kind of fed up with China right now, as a lot of American politicians happen to be, and a lot of people around the world are fed up with China right now because of the pandemic. However, he has decided that one of the things that we need to put the kibosh on is using equipment that belongs to the United States government and then subsidizing Chinese propaganda, Chinese communist propaganda, to be more specific. And he has a point. You know why he has a point? He has a point because
You don't own that plane, the taxpayers do.
that's right. All those sweet, 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 sweet pieces of hardware, those things belong to the United States taxpayer. And United States taxpayer dollars should not be going to subsidize propaganda on behalf of countries who are hostile to the United States and, quite frankly, hostile to a lot of people and a lot of countries in the world. You may be aware China has a real issue with censorship. This film censorship in China article from Wikipedia goes into great depth and it lists movies that are banned or unreleased or partially banned, including things like the Ten Commandments or Frankenstein or Alice in Wonderland or Ben Hur. I mean, just on and on and on. All these different wonderful films that you can watch. 7 Years in Tibet, Lara Croft, Brokeback Mountain, uh, the Da Vinci Code, on and on and on. The Dark Knight, things like this are getting banned in China for basically crossing the communists that are running the place. So this is a funny thing because Hollywood loves to boycott places that disagree with Hollywood. For example, Hollywood likes to boycott Georgia because Georgia passes a law that Hollywood doesn't like. Hollywood likes to boycott Alabama because Alabama passes a law that Hollywood doesn't like. Hollywood likes to boycott North Carolina and because North Carolina passes a law they don't like. So basically, Hollywood has no problem running around boycotting states in the United States of America, fellow Americans, if they disagree with their politics. But when it comes to whether or not they're going to get their film in China, then they're perfectly happy with doing whatever they can to bow down and kiss the ring so they can get their sweet, sweet foreign box office. So, or that sweet, sweet Chinese box office specifically. So, an example, this is a scene here. These are two images. One is from the original Top Gun with Maverick's flight jacket. This is the Japanese flag, and this is the Taiwan flag. Okay, in the sequel, we have the same flight jacket, but you might notice that that's not the Japanese flag, and that right there is definitely not the Taiwanese flag. And the reason for this, many people theorize, is because the Chinese communists are supremely butthurt about the existence of powers in the South Pacific that could rival their influence in the region. So this is a big deal because movies like Transformers, movies like pretty much any Michael Bay movie, pretty much any kind of movie that involves modern war stories or action adventures that use any kind of military hardware, 9 times out of 10 they wind up getting, if they want the best stuff, if they want the sweet stuff, they usually talk to the Department of Defense and they submit their scripts and the Department of Defense reviews them, and if they meet their guidelines then they offer to allow them to make use of resources that the Department of Defense has at their disposal. It's important to keep in mind that sometimes you stand up for your principles because you want the quality of your art to uphold those ideals, and it's important that we uphold those ideals and defend that as creators ourselves, because if we don't, then what are we doing this for in the first place? I mean, are we doing it to make money? Yeah, we're doing it to make money, but at what cost? Are we doing it to the cost of our principles, the cost of what we believe in? We shouldn't be doing it for that reason. So that's my take. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, like and subscribe. If you didn't like it, well, it was free. You didn't pay anything, but I do appreciate your time.